something that you said recently, which meant a lot to me, but you were like, I think a lot of this stuff that we're into now, a lot of the changes that we've made to our fitness all started when we had Doug Brignole on the show.
All these different things, like if I can jujitsu longer, well, then I'll be better at it. If I can run every day and have zero pain and zero setbacks, then I'll be better at it.
Yeah, he gave me an opportunity to do what I love to do without pain.
Doug was, if not the first, he was definitely one of the first people that came on that really just kind of said the barbell. And it takes quite a bit of courage to literally say, what all of you guys are doing is wrong.
Remember the first time he was on, and he was on like via Zoom, and he threw up that bicep.
That was
I'll never
surprising.
forget that, because I was like,
the squat's the best way and the only way to train the legs. You see that perpetuated by tons of coaches.
there's people that are in tons of pain feeling like they have to squat.
Yeah.
Who's the greatest bodybuilder of all time?
Kenny Williams. It wasn't just because he coached a guy and he never did partials, therefore you should never do partials. It was all based on like our anatomy.
And sometimes there's people that come along that just see things differently. And I think it's great to have people like Doug Brignole, to have people throw in some different stuff, because it's not healthy for us to have just the same old shit around.
It's so funny, dude. They're just like 60-something-year-old man just sending me text messages, being like, look at this stretch mark. This is phenomenal. You know, it's just,
I'm getting jacked.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, dude, you're already jacked.
He did make a post, and he did talk about how he got vaccinated, and I don't think he was kind of halfway joking around. I don't know. He just kind of said, you know, if I die from, you know, if I die, it's because of the vaccine, because I'm pretty healthy.
He believed in himself so much that he was talking about like, I can't wait. I'm going to find one of these naysayers when they compete. I'm going to go to their competition, jump on stage and blow them out of the water. And he was so serious too. I loved it because he was so passionate about it. And like I said, he was so confident in what he was able to do.
And what if something like the Brig 20 could be something to help us get out of the obesity crisis that we're in now? Not only are people overly have excess body fat on them, but they also are under muscled.
This time last week, Doug Brignole was not as popular as he is right now. Fortunately, it took him having to die and say some shit about a very controversial thing in order to get, literally at this point, like fucking nationwide attention. What's going to happen is like people are going to dig deep and they're going to be like, oh shit, he was really onto something.
Trying to get abs, bro.
Man, that is a stupid exercise. Let me explain to you why that's a stupid habit.
I'm gonna quit.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, on this podcast, we talk all about recovery, which is why 8 Sleep are the beds that we sleep on. Now, 8 Sleep is the Tesla of beds. Not only does it track your heart rate, your HRV, your tosses and turns, it also tracks how long you've been in each sleep cycle, and the mattress does something amazing. It changes its temperature through the night to make sure that in each sleep cycle, you're getting the optimum sleep for you. Now, I know you guys are interested in checking them out, so head to 8sleep.com/powerproject, and you'll automatically be able to save $150 off of your Pod Pro cover or your Pod Pro cover and mattress combo. Check them out. Enjoy the video.
But yeah, are we on?
We are rolling.
Hello?
Those slow release Kratom tablets are interesting. I just took 2. I took 2 or 3 yesterday to see how it feels, and I don't know, it's subtle. Very subtle. I don't know if I'm tripping or not, but
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, you know, like the capsules that we have for Mind Bullet, they're pretty strong. I want to say there's, from what I remember, there's 750 milligrams, I think, per capsule. And obviously the potion is an extract. So it's really, really strong. I want to say the potion is like the equivalent of like 12 capsules or something like that. So the potion is a lot. Oh, you missed it.
that was a bad miss.
So it kind of just depends on the impact that you want to have. But I've been taking the slow release before runs, and I like it because it's hitting me like, you know, midway through the run. I'm starting to get that runner's high along with the Kratom kicking in. It's a really good, it's a good sensation, good feel. Getting double high.
I'm gonna do that on the next run. Yeah,
But for you, I think you'd need like 4 to 6 of them. Otherwise,
yeah,
probably might not make a dent.
Interesting.
You're large. You're a large human.
Am I? I'm like 180 pounds.
Are you off cycle? I saw that on your. I love it. Like the first comment. You know what I mean? Like it's always like, are you off cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm still on cycle, guys. I'm joking. I'm not on cycle.
But it's
never been on cycle.
Like, I wonder if, I don't know, like asking the question that way though, is like, I'm going to get him. Like, I'm going to wait and see if he slips. Like, hey, are you off cycle? Like, waiting for you to make a mistake and be like, yeah, oh, I mean, no, what, huh?
Well, I mean, to some people, I'm just lying every single day that I come onto this podcast.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that can be done other than just a smile and a wave.
Yeah.
I don't understand what people expect from us or what they think. Because like when I meet people in person, they're always like, oh my God, you're huge. Right? They say that a lot. You hear that a lot?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't understand how big or small they think I would be.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm glad that they're surprised. I don't know.
Mhm.
I remember the last run that you and I went on, we passed like a group of, I don't know how old they were, but a group of just dudes
Yeah.
that were just like kind of on the trail too. And then Mark had, he went ahead of me because I think he was going to go up a hill or something.
Uh-huh.
And then so like he passes them, and then by the time I get to them, they're all just like looking back like, like, you guys, what the fuck was that? Because shirts off, fucking looking incredible, but like they were like, they were so confused. They're
Yeah.
like, that guy's running.
Yeah. You don't see people looking like you out on a trail.
Right.
No.
Yeah, I know. And when you do see, you either see one of two things with people running. It's people just like schlepping along, like a little shuffle, or there's these people that look like gazelles. They look unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, fuck you, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You see some really like, and sometimes it's someone that's like 6'3" and they're just moving amazing. Kind of like the guy that we saw that one day.
The tall guy?
Yeah, and he just cruised right through the run, and he's like, yeah, I did like 25 minutes. It was like easy for him.
Yeah.
We're like, fuck.
No, it's really cool how I guess how normal running's becoming. It's actually becoming super normal for you. What is this, day 46 that you run today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ran this morning and it felt really good. Yesterday felt really good too. I was just like, I don't know, I just got like mid-run yesterday.
Was
And
that the 11 miler with Oscar, or was that the day before?
That was a couple days previous. But yeah, I ran 11 miles 2 days in a row. Just because like I ran 11 miles with Oscar one day, and then the next day I was running for like maybe like 45 minutes, and I was like, I might as well run an hour.
Yeah.
And then I got to the hour, and then I ended up taking a call from a friend of mine who's long-winded. So I was like, this will push me. This will push me another 30 minutes. So yeah, I ran for an hour and 34 minutes. So
Yeah.
a little over 11 miles 2 days in a row. And everything feels great. Everything feels fine.
Do you know what your mileage this week is?
Yeah, it's probably a lot. I don't know. 5 miles every day, and then plus going 11 miles 2 days in a row. So I don't know what that would be.
5 miles every day. Okay, so 22, 25, 47.
Probably, yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Dude.
Yeah, getting close to 50 miles, I guess.
Yeah.
Something that you said recently, which meant a lot to me, but you were like, I think a lot of this stuff that we're into now, a lot of the changes that we've made to our fitness all started when we had Doug Brignole on the show. That was really fucking cool to hear, and thank you.
Yeah, I think so. I think like this kind of rabbit hole of, I mean, part of the reason why we had Doug on the show was because he was different, and because he had, I mean, who's like, there's not really a lot of people out there bashing some of the other exercises, and kind of honing in on like, what are these movements for? Like, what are you trying to do with these movements? Because if this is the result that you're looking for, he just brought up the simple idea of maybe there's other ways to go about doing it. And that's what I really loved. I didn't even really agree with him on a lot of stuff. But like, thinking of something like the squat, is a squat the greatest exercise for your legs? I would say it's a really, really awesome exercise for your legs. I would also say there's probably other ways you can go about doing things. And I'd also probably, just looking back at my own like lifting, I would say that, if my main goal was like muscles, just size of my legs and things like that, I could have went about things differently, but I never really had that as much of a goal for myself personally. But anyway, it just brings up a really good point of like, what is it that you're trying to do? And a lot of times when people are in the weight room, they're usually trying to get stronger, or they're trying to look better. And then people will say, oh, I lift weights for football, or I lift weights for wrestling, or Well, if you're lifting weights for those reasons, maybe some of the exercises or maybe some of the things you're doing, maybe they can be looked at differently, because maybe there are some things you could do. There's always going to be like an optimal way. There's always going to be something out there that you're probably not doing or addressing. But like the little stuff that we've been messing with, the feet and mobility drills and like all these different things. Like if I can jujitsu longer, well, then I'll be better at it. If I can run every day and have zero pain and zero setbacks, then I'll be better at it. If I can lift. So it's like, what are these things that you can recover from? And like back to Doug's point on the squat, him being so brilliant, a squat's a tough thing to recover from, because it just like takes over your whole body. You know, you do 5 sets of 10 of squats. It's going to be a rough day the next day. But if you did some of the Doug Brignole exercises, your legs are going to be sore. You're going to have felt it, because those are exercises that really do tap into the legs. But like your lower back's not going to be taxed. You're not going to be walking around as jacked up. You're still going to be sore. You're not going to walk around as jacked up. So he brought up a lot of great points, and I think he led us down some of the path that we ended up on with all these different things, all these different people that we brought in.
Yeah, he gave me an opportunity to do what I love to do without pain. You know, like when we first had him on, I was going down this really cool path where I'm like, you know, I'm just going to show up to the gym. I'm going to be in pain, but I'm going to do stuff that just doesn't hurt. So I'm like, I know I'm supposed to do bent over rows, but I'm not going to do them because they hurt my back. Like instead, I don't know what I was doing at that time, but I was just basically chasing the pump. Mark and I were on a walk, and I was telling him like, dude, I feel like I'm making some good progress. I'm not really hurting myself.
Like, this after Doug stuff?
This was before. Literally, like I could be way off, but I want to say it was like within a week of us having him on the first time. But telling Mark that I'm making some cool progress, like nothing crazy, and I'm feeling good. I'm like, but eventually I'm going to have to lift some heavy weight, because at the time it was not heavy. It was more hypertrophy, higher reps. And he just kind of stops, and he's just like, well, who says you have to? And I'm like, well, I mean, everybody, right? Like, you know, bodybuilders get huge and they have to lift heavy ass weight. And he's like, well, we haven't really like seen anybody kind of do the opposite. And then, like I said, the very next episode that we did was with Doug Brignole, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was just like, oh shit. Like, he was the first person that we had on where like I'm buying his book as we're still talking to him. Like that's never happened. And so like, it was just like an awesome, like just wave of information that came my way. And then when I heard him speak, I was just like, dude, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And, you know, I posted a picture of when I actually got to meet him. And it's funny just looking at my posture, looking at the shoes I'm wearing. I was like, I was in a lot of pain, but he gave me the ability to still work out and make a lot of progress. So that was like, again, like I said, the timing of it all was really huge. You know, that beginning of that change of the way we were kind of seeing things.
Yeah, as far as lifting is concerned, because, you know, we did get a lot of people that were different thinkers as far as outside of lifting. But Doug was, if not the first, he was definitely one of the first people that came on that really just kind of said, fuck the barbell. I think that's what you titled the episode.
Ditch it was like, ditch the barbell. Yeah.
And remember Chris Aceto, he was the opposite. Remember when he came on, he was like, I don't understand why anybody would use anything other than a barbell. He's like, fuck hammer strength machines. And like, he thought everything else was like dumb. You know, he had a different perspective.
Yeah.
But one really big thing is that, you know, Doug's been a professional in fitness for decades, right? And it takes a certain amount of courage to, number one, you have all these professionals that are other coaches, that are other bodybuilders, saying that this is the ideal way to do things. And it's like, everyone is like, it's a resounding yes. And it takes quite a bit of courage to literally say, what all of you guys are doing is wrong. Here's why it's wrong, and I want you to try this, right? And you got a bunch of other professionals that are saying, no, you're a quack, whatever. But, you know, in application, he had so many people that were reaping massive benefits from his Brig 20, you know? And I mean, yeah, there are things that I disagreed with him on even, but at the same time.
And he looked awesome.
And he did, he came on, he looked fucking good.
Remember the first time he was on, and he was on like via Zoom, and he threw up that bicep. Like,
That was
I'll never
surprising.
forget that, because I was like, oh, okay, I'm listening to this guy, or at least I should be paying more attention to what he's got to say, because he was jacked.
Absolutely. And I think that's that's a really huge thing. You know, even if we disagreed with him on certain things, right? Because there's a lot of things that I agreed with him on, and I have his book, right? He got people thinking outside of the paradigm of, for example, like you mentioned, the squat's the best way and the only way to train the legs. You see that perpetuated by tons of coaches.
There's people that are in tons of pain feeling like they have to squat.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Or feeling like they have to deadlift, or feeling like they have to barbell row.
Yeah, bent over rows. And me and Nsima were having this conversation, I don't know, sometime last week about like, you know, the optimal bros. I'm sorry to call them that, but
they are that. They are the optimal bros. No apologies.
Because when Nsima's showing, you know, like like stretching out his like I guess infraspinatus in the back, doing a weird movement that no fucking anybody that has any like knowledge on biomechanics would ever do.
Easy for you to say, bro. You got good genetics.
But
I said it for everybody else.
Yeah. But in the arena of building muscle. Yeah, biomechanics and what everyone has learned would shit all over that. But we're not in that arena when Nsima's trying to stretch out his shit over here. And that sounded bad, I'm sorry. Stretch out your shoulder and get into these awesome ranges of motion that you're going to later use for jiu-jitsu or use for staying out of pain.
I like watching him stretch out.
Me too. That's nice.
I mean,
I'm going to say, though, even outside of the context of jiu-jitsu, because I kind of say that so that people understand there's aspects of why I'm training differently, I think it does play benefit for bodybuilders. You know what I mean? Because like bodybuilders, you look at them move, they're stiff as fuck.
But what you're not saying that like in that very moment, this is going to develop muscle here. What you're saying is like this is
could though.
It's going to give you, but it's going to mainly give you more access to doing the other motions a lot better.
Yeah.
Who's the greatest bodybuilder of all time?
Kenny Williams.
Kenny Williams.
Yeah, Kenny Williams.
Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman can move pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Ronnie Coleman can move really, really well, like, especially when he was younger. And he was posing and stuff. I mean, he's doing splits. I mean, he was incredible. Like, you don't think that guy like knows how to flex his rotator cuff or his rear delt, like just flex his rear delt and not move anything else. Like, you don't think that guy has absolutely incredible, not only range of motion, but like kinesthetic awareness and understanding of how to flex the smallest of muscles, like in the obliques or something like that. Like that guy's he's got all that shit figured out and then some. Like, he's a fucking genius when it comes to that kind of thing. So I think that sometimes we don't really understand the value of like movement and all these different things. And Ronnie Coleman learned it probably primarily through bodybuilding. He did bodybuilding and powerlifting, and he probably learned a lot of it. But there's a lot of people that bodybuild that don't take the time to do the smaller tasks of bodybuilding, like learning how to pose. And there's some people that never even compete. So because they don't compete, they might not understand that, like, you know, you do a certain pose, you twist a certain way, how difficult that is to make it look like you have no waist and you have this fucking gigantic upper body. I mean, a lot of these guys have that. Ronnie Coleman had that just by standing there because he's Ronnie Coleman. But he also was able to make his appearance. Arnold was great at it. Remember, Arnold would throw up that one bicep with the other arm kind of back, and he just looked fucking ridiculous. Looked incredible. Well, there's a lot of dexterity to that. Like, go ahead and try it, and go ahead and try it for a half an hour, and mess around with it for a half an hour every day for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, or, you know, these guys, they spend a lot of time on their routine, and a lot of guys will even go as far as to work on range of motion and stretching and these kinds of things so that they can. Otherwise, if you can't do those things, you cannot. You can't show your body the way that you need to show your body, which that's horrible.
Yo.
Right? You get yourself super jacked. You worked on everything, the diet, everything's good. And then it turns out that you're super stiff and can't even show what you just worked for.
One thing there's a few things that are really cool with what you mentioned, because I was watching you lift the other day when you were doing some stuff with the cables, and then you did a lat spread in front of the mirror. And I saw it from the other side of the gym. I was just like, because I remembered your bodybuilding show. I remembered you weren't you didn't look that big.
Stuck.
You were stuck. You're now unstuck. And it's not like you have bigger chunks of muscle there, but you're able to show that muscle because you have more access. I was at my girlfriend's show yesterday, and I haven't been to a show in a while, so it was cool watching these different athletes on stage, but you could literally see, now this, like, since I know what I was looking for, there are athletes that were more muscled, or maybe they had more muscle, but because they didn't have the ability to move well, when they were posing, they didn't have access to those, like to show those muscle tissue. They didn't have access to that. So they look stiff, they look clunky, they didn't move well. And then there are other athletes who maybe they were a bit smaller, literally, they had less muscle, but they had better movement ability and they had better ability to show the different muscle groups on stage. And they did better because why? They had more access. So it is something to think about.
You need that access like in the front and the back. So like if, let's say that your left hip gets tight, that's what's tight on me. That's why it's the example. Well, then it's a little harder for me to like kind of go to on my left side. It's hard for me to push off, and it's hard for me to, I was listening to this runner the other day saying, push with the tush. Like that's how you're supposed to run. You're supposed to kind of push with your butt cheek. And people try to do stuff like with their quad and stuff. And he's like, the quad is just like a shock absorber. It just kind of happens to be there. And you want to pull with the hamstring and push with your butt cheek, basically. And so sometimes some of those movements at first are different for me because there's been so much tightness in the front of the hip. Well, because the front of the hip is somewhat limited, it will kind of bend you slightly forward, and over time you'll start to lose access to the left glute. So the body, the body works like as this kind of synergistic unit. And in order for me, and the reason why that's happening, I'll explain it a little further, is if you are to flex your butt cheek as hard as you can and drive your hips forward, you might kind of see what I'm talking about, especially if you do so in like a lunge position. You'll feel a stretch directly in the front of your leg, hip flexor, those kinds of things. So when the hip flexor is real tight, well, now we don't have maximum contraction of that glute in the back. And back to Doug, so much of what he was trying to explain to us was being able to control the muscles, being able to tap into the muscles with exercises that he felt were effective. And he broke it down like from a scientific perspective. And he was talking about, analyzing the kind of the intensity that the muscle fibers were going through during specific movements. And these were things that he worked on for a long time. These are things that he worked through. Yes, he did sell a book, and yes, he did sell some ideas and concepts, but Nsima hit the nail on the head. People that are pioneers, I always say the first man through the wall gets bloody, and then other people can just charge right through the wall and be like, yep, and they'll be fine. They'll be unscathed. But the first guy that goes through is going to be the guy that takes a lot of the heat. And they're going to be like, this guy's an asshole. He's only trying to sell a book. I can't believe he's talking about bodybuilding and powerlifting this way. This is the way all this stuff has been forever, and this is the way it should always be. And you're like, well, it's only been that way because that's what everybody's used to.
Yeah.
If you have somebody new coming in, pointing out maybe some of the problems, it's actually a really good thing because now we can get into a discussion. Maybe some of the stuff that he said, maybe some of it's right. And then we can have conversation and say, you know what? He had a lot of really good points. Let's see if we can kind of blend that into some of these other things. So I don't think these other things are bad. So can we do some of the Brig 20? Could we mix in some of those leg exercises that he pointed to? And could we also maybe towards the end of the workout hit up some squats? Because we like squats, it's what we're interested in. But now because we already tapped into the muscle fibers, maybe we'll get a little bit more out of our squats because we got a little bit of a pre-pump going.
Yeah, and just kind of going back to the range of motion stuff, Doug was very much against partials and that sort of thing. But it wasn't just because he coached a guy and he never did partials, therefore you should never do partials, or, it wasn't like from, what is it called? The N=1 experience or data. It was all based on like our anatomy. Like, so everything that he brought forward, he did the research and he like not dissected, but he like really broke down the human body. And that's where he got his information from. It wasn't because he heard it from some gym bro a long time ago, put it into practice, and it worked. He actually studied the biomechanics of, the way our bodies move and stuff. So, when he came onto our show and he was breaking down the numbers of like how much load goes to the quads when you do a full body squat. And he's like, if it's 200 pounds and you're a 200-pound man, you just assume like, oh, I'm putting 400 pounds of, load on my quads. But he's like, well, no, because, he explains why, like your bottom femur is only at a certain degree. So that takes off some, but then because of your quad being shortened and like all kinds of stuff, he's like, you're really getting less. He's like, versus, he talks about the sissy squat, which was kind of like a lot of people got fired up about, because he's saying like the sissy squat's way more productive for muscle gain compared to a full body squat. And he's just like, when you break this down, it's actually 1,200 pounds of load on each quad and stuff. And it's like, well, what the hell? Like, where'd you get these numbers? But he breaks it down, and he actually, kind of, they are made up numbers, right? Because he's talking about a 200-pound person doing a 200-pound squat versus body weight squat and stuff. But what I'm getting at is like, it wasn't shit that he just kind of came up with out of nowhere. He just looked at our body, and he looked at something that I never even considered, which is like literally the physics of resistance. Like, where's the resistance coming from? Like, how come when I stand like 4 feet away from the cable machine and I do tricep extensions, I can do a fuck ton of weight. But when I stand really close or stand at the ones that like make you turn around and do it backwards, like, why is that so much harder? That one sucks. I don't want to do that one. That one hurts. It's like, well, because the cable and the resistance is coming from an easier or harder direction. And again, like, I had never heard anybody talk about stuff like that. And it's like, it's such a simple thing, like, oh, physics, shit that we all have to deal with every day. How come I've never once thought of it until he came along? And I think a lot of people kind of had that same experience where it's like, oh shit, like that, like awakening period or whatever. And then just being able to train smarter. And like I said, from my personal experience, which is like, I'm supposed to do these things because that's what everyone else has done and that's what everyone tells me to do. And then he comes along and he's just like, well, no, just do the one that's more optimal for muscle gain. It's like, okay. And it's been working. I've been doing really well. And even in Nsima, like when you had asked me, you're like, dude, what's up with your hamstrings? That was like one of the coolest days ever. And I'm just like, oh, what are you talking about? You're like, I've never seen, whatever you had said about the
Is that the day that he licked him?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
You're a dirty.
You did the same thing.
Well, I
don't try to out me when you're outed yourself.
You guys are just good friends.
Yeah. That's what homies do with each other. Don't homies look other homies' hamstrings just when,
He's an attractive man.
And you really need to shave because I got a few hairs in my mouth.
Yeah,
I don't really appreciate that.
It's the whole grooming. Like, I don't do like the skin care and so like the hair stuff.
It works for you, papi.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I've been doing Doug's like training split. Like, I had hit him up and we were talking. We did like a Zoom call or whatever, and like we were just going back and forth. I'm like, dude, like I understand these movements, I understand how to do them all. And he's like, well, just do what I do. And so like I got his like actual training split, and that's when I started making even more progress. That's when you recognize like, dude, what's up with your legs? Like something's going on here. And it's an awesome 3-day split. So 3 days on, 1 day off, and back on to 3 days. And it's like he knew what the fuck he was talking about is what I'm getting at.
If anything, the good thing is that we bring on so many different people with so many different thought processes. And one thing that I'm happy about in terms of this group of people is that we are open, right? We're not married to specific ideas in terms of training because we understand that there's a lot of ways to do this, right? So when Doug came in, when we tried some of his stuff, it felt great. It was pretty cool. There's minimal stress to a lot of joints, and you can even see a lot of people that do some of his stuff. A lot of them are older, and they're still in the gym in their 60s.
He was in his 60s, yeah.
He was in his 60s, and a lot of them are in their 70s, and they're still able to train, and they're able to train without pain. So no matter what you may think, right, it is a good idea to explore some of the ideas that he had. And in his book, he has it all. I have his book, right? And it'll allow you to just see how certain things feel for yourself. Because, I mean, there are some people that do things based off of mechanics. And then there are some people that have an ability to feel certain things and can say intuitively, this angle feels way better on this muscle than this one.
Dre. Great example. He's just like tossing around some kettlebells.
Yeah.
Where'd you learn that from? I don't know. Like, just been watching some people, and like he's been making some of his own shit up, right? He's been doing it.
Yeah.
So there's people that have kind of these different talents, but it's like, does someone like Dre, does he have a understanding of biomechanics? I would say, yeah, he does, but it's in a different way. He might not know some of the text. I mean, I have no idea whether he knows it or not, but he doesn't, maybe doesn't know it the same way. Doesn't know the exact like words or whatever, but he could feel it.
And then he can communicate that to somebody so they can feel it also.
Right. And he can show and demonstrate too. And I think all these tasks are really important. But what was cool about Doug Brignole was that he was a guy putting it forward. Like he was a guy that was actually doing it, was actually competing in bodybuilding. He was actually really successful. He was actually like, there's a lot of bodybuilders that do well and they go into competitions and you're like, that's cool. Like the guy did great. Doug Brignole would get shredded. I mean, he would get completely shredded. And that tells you something about somebody. Like that's a very specific mentality to go that deep in. Like you can go in and get in shape, and we've seen a lot of guys do and girls do a lot of great things, a lot of great body transformations. But everybody that has ever done a bodybuilding show knows what it takes to get that last little bit of detail in there, and he left no stone unturned when it came to that.
Look at this handsome man, man.
Yeah.
Doug looked good.
I don't know the exact date on like this shoot or whatever, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
You know, like the one thing when he was here, it was so funny, like just typical bodybuilder, bro. He like we finished the day of recording and whoop, there goes his pants. And I'm like, oh, yep. Okay. and it was so good because he's like, man, I'm able to get shredded. I'm able to develop a lot of muscle. He's like, but the one thing that age will get you on, he's like, look at this. And he's showing like kind of like loose skin on his legs. He's like, no matter what I do, he's like, that's always going to be there now. He's like, that's the motherfucker of getting old. And I'm like, dude, you still look fucking incredible.
Yeah, remember that video that I made with him where I'm hanging off the chin-up bar and he's like, this exercise is stupid.
I think you just reposted it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll have to find it.
It's it's that kind of stuff that like I think people appreciate. Like I think that's why it was so well received. I've been on the internet forever, and I think that's like one of the most viewed posts that I've ever had was just
look, that's me.
Me doing a fucking stomach exercise with him and him telling me that it was dumb.
Yeah, and then he like started coming up with it's not a video, but it's like a sissy squat / pendulum squat thing. And I tried it, man. It's pretty hard, but it was a little bit difficult for me to get in and out of. So I've just been doing regular sissy squats. But going back to don't reinvent the wheel, I don't know, man. Like if it worked, what if it works better? Like what if you get a wheel that fucking just smokes the other one? Like, but because you're so stuck in your old ways, you're not even going to try it. Like, what if you passed on like an amazing exercise? This
is where knowledge comes from. Knowledge comes from, people giving other ideas and people implementing other things. And then like, kind of picking off the things that you feel don't work well and moving along. And then sometimes those things that you didn't think worked well, they sometimes cycle their way right back into stuff. I was listening to Rick Rubin on Joe Rogan. Look at his back.
This is a recent shoot, by the way.
That's a recent shoot?
This is a recent shoot, yeah.
He was 62, I think, when he passed, right?
Yo.
That's just, okay, these ones actually are kind of old.
I was going to say,
yeah, no, sorry. I remember this one from a while
back. Did he just gain hella size or some shit?
No, sorry, my bad.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No, I thought, because I was trying to get him to, like, shave his head, so I thought that's why it was recent. My bad.
Yeah, I was listening to Rick Rubin on Joe Rogan, and he was just talking about, how he just kind of always viewed things a little differently. He's always seen things a little differently. And sometimes there's people that come along that just see things differently. And I think it's great to have people like Doug Brignole, to have people throw in some different stuff, because like this, it's not healthy for us to have just the same old shit around and to just kind of not make any progress. And so you sometimes need stuff to be different. And the movements and some of the stuff that he was bringing up was different. It wasn't so crazy different, though. It wasn't like, it was still lifting.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was still lifting and still lifting exercises, which is kind of funny because we tend to be so nitpicky about some of these movements. I remember asking Matt Wenning, who was here recently, and he was talking about doing different exercises, and he was talking about doing the the Cadillac bar when he came in bench press, and I was trying to get from him, hey, would you ever come in the gym and like do something totally different? He's like, yeah, I would use a different bar. I would bench a different way. And I'm like thinking, no, like just would you come in the gym and just like fucking huck around a medicine ball for the day? Or would you do sprints on the turf? Or would you bear crawl? Or like that's where my mind was. But a lot of times we're so tunnel vision in what we're doing that we can't think outside. And to point out, I mean, just time and time and time again, it will always show you that these people that think differently are pioneers, and they end up adding so much value. You think of Danaher, what he's done in jiu-jitsu. He came through and just, it changed everything. Look at Dana White, you know, what is this barbaric bullshit fighting stuff? You can't, you guys are, you know, and it got banned in every state, and then they had to, like, I think UFC 2 or 3 or whatever had to go from one place to another in one night to still have a fight, still hold a fight. Whatever people think of Dana White politically, whatever, but like the fucking guy's a pioneer. Like, it's unbelievable. So there's going to be a lot of people that have a lot of different ideas, but Royce Gracie coming into the UFC, and the UFC kind of being like a demonstration ground for everyone to see, okay, holy shit, there is a lot of value to jiu-jitsu, right? We've never seen anything like that before. Before that, when I was a kid and you'd say, I wonder what would happen if Bo Jackson fought Michael Jordan, or like you would just kind of like, you would wonder. But now we know, like, oh, like fighting is like very specific skill set. And yes, okay, it could help to be faster. It could help to be stronger. It could help to be a better athlete. But fuck, it would help the most if you knew how to grapple, you know, if you knew how to protect yourself, if you knew some sort of martial art of some kind, would be really useful. And then if you're like, well, that guy's loaded up pretty good with martial arts, he's probably going to win. But before Royce Gracie, before the Gracies came along, before the UFC came along, unless you were like some devoted person in the fight game, you didn't know that. You had no idea. It'd be like Tyson's gonna absolutely destroy Royce Gracie, and there would just be there's no possible scenario where that would happen. I know that people want to dream it up and think that it would happen, but there's no scenario where that would happen. Mike Tyson would get destroyed by Royce Gracie. There's just there's not there, like I'm saying, there's in my head, there's not a scenario where Tyson has any advantage. He's not going to be able to land a shot. He's just not. It's just not going to happen. I know everyone's like, well, what if he did? He's not going to be able to land a shot. And even if he did, do you have any idea how fucking tough Royce Gracie is?
Right.
That guy, I mean, I've never seen him get knocked out before. He's unbelievable.
Tyson, though, man.
I understand.
Like,
There's certain positions, right, where he could have like hauled off a punch, like down where like Royce can't move.
Do you remember that?
I mean, look, if Tyson was training for it and he was up to it and like aware of it, then maybe. But like if it happened pretty quickly, kind of out of nowhere, like it's just, I mean, the odds of somebody being able to get to your feet really, like of another athlete, a grappler, to be able to get to your feet really easily is really high. It's through the fucking roof. Like the ability of someone just to cut down real low on someone like me is high because I don't have any defense for it. I don't work on it. I never thought about it. I don't really know how to sprawl. Like I just haven't done much of that.
Yeah.
So you're asking to get taken out fast if you don't have a skill set to defend that.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, maybe if it was prime Tyson, prime Royce, 10 matches, Tyson maybe would take 2 or 3. And the reason why I say 2 or 3 is because it's like, you guys remember that match where, was it Masvidal versus, what's his name?
Ben Askren?
Ben Askren. Okay, so there was the knee, but I've also seen like people come in and just good strikers just get, you know, and if somebody
clip somebody,
Conor McGregor, oh God, fucking legend jiu-jitsu, beat the shit out of so many people. Oh my God, he called it before the fight. He was just like, I'm gonna clip him right here, like as
just an example like Chuck Liddell or Anderson Silva, they got a much higher just because they can mitigate a lot of the stuff that Hoist Gracie would be able to do. But if you can't mitigate any of it, you're fucking toast.
You got to get that hit in early. You got to get it in while he's going, or else once he takes you to the ground, it is game over. That's why I said, 2 or 3. That Tyson Power is something else, bro.
Yeah, it was McGregor Aldo. Like 13-second KO. Yeah, that one he fucked him up. But in this picture, Doug is 54. So, dude, I know this was 2014, but he was still doing the Brig 20 back then. Yeah. When he came on our show, he was talking about how he won this might have been a competition doing only the Brig 20. So it was doing very well. And I wanted to bring up this guy. It's spelled Renzo, but it might be Henzo, but I haven't really spoken to him, so I don't know if he has an accent, but we'll just go with Henzo. He's been a huge proponent of the Brig 20 also, and he's been doing it, and he looks phenomenal. And I think he might be, it says over 60 in the hashtags, but this guy's a savage too. And he's been following the Brig 20 stuff, so he's doing some sissy squats, cable sissy squats. It's been helping a ton of people. And before I click off, I got to give this guy a shout out too. So this his IG handle is Kitoi Fitness. Same thing. He started, let's see here, when he was 48, and he's been going for, I guess, around 10 years. So doing a lot of the Brig 20 stuff too. He does a lot of other like traditional like bodybuilding stuff. But yeah, dude, like the impact that Doug made on a lot of people to be able to gain access to working out again is fucking phenomenal. And I love this post though, because like I said, he started very late. He started at 48 to just start taking shit serious. So
people that really are cool, like impaired or banged up and stuff, I think the program is even more amazing for them just because, like you said, they have access to be able to do a lot of these things. I mean, most people can handle going in the gym and using some of the cable machines and using, he relied on some other machines as well too, right?
He used, it was a cable machine for a majority of the stuff, but like, for bench, I like using the cable machine, for like a decline cable press, but he was all about free weights. He loved doing free weights with the decline press. So he still was a fan of free weights because the direction of resistance is straight down and you can manipulate that to be a really good chest exercise. Now his, the chest exercise is more almost like a fly press, which we've done a bunch of times in the gym. So he does that cable machine. He liked the multi-hip machine that we used at the Niners facility. That thing was amazing. My glutes,
those are pretty great.
Glutes might still be sore. That, and then I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And then, like I said, he started doing that pendulum sissy squat as of late. And it's so funny. Like I would just get like a random text of like stretch marks. He's just like, I'm 62 years old and I'm still getting stretch marks. This is phenomenal. He's like, this training split that we're doing, I'm telling you, he's like, just keep going. It's going to be amazing. And it's so cool because he was still fired up every day to just do bodybuilding. The shit that he started, that he fell in love with when he was, I think, 14 years old, 13 or 14 years old. And then, unfortunately, Bill Pearl just passed as well. Yeah. And that's the first guy that kind of gave him a shot. So not a shot, but just like he started training at Bill Pearl's gym and he kind of took him under his wing. But like, dude, he loved bodybuilding. He was just a huge fan. And obviously fucking very successful at it because he won multiple like AAU, titles and stuff. But it's so funny, dude. They're just like 60-something-year-old man just sending me text messages, being like, look at this stretch mark. This is phenomenal. It's just,
I'm getting jacked.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, dude, you're already jacked. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's so cool. Like, he was 60 years old, over 60 years old. Like, people that age are obviously, I know we're talking about like a different subset of people here. But like, he would hop on a Zoom call with me, like whenever, and we would just talk about bodybuilding all the time. My dad can't even figure out how to turn on a computer, and he's only a little bit older than him.
Right.
So, and this is what you were talking about, Mark, is like he had the gym, right? He did all these things early on, and he kind of came back around and he did it again in his 60s, hustling. That shit's hard.
Yeah, he got on, social media and built out the name for himself, built out a business. And it's hard to try to figure out some of this stuff, especially when you're older, but it's cool that he had the passion for it for so long. But unfortunately, don't have any details or information on how he passed or what happened really. A all you can do is like speculate, and that's not really a good place to hang out or live. But we do know there are some dangers to bodybuilding on any level, whether you're doing it drug-free or otherwise. It's obviously going to be more dangerous if there's drug abuse in there. But anytime anybody like this passes, people are always going to think steroids right away. It's just like, I don't know how good that does us. It would be great if we could know more, so that way we could have other people, avoid it. But I don't think he wasn't married. He doesn't have children, and I don't know if we're gonna like learn much more. He did make a post, and he did talk about how he got vaccinated, and I don't think he was kind of halfway joking around. I don't know. He just kind of said, if I die from, if I die, it's because of the vaccine, because I'm pretty healthy. But I don't know how much he traced his blood work or what other indicators of health. Or he's like, when we saw him, he seemed healthy. He looks great. But life is finicky, and this body of ours is a giant supercomputer, and sometimes the lights just go out and they don't come back, and we're not always sure why. People randomly die all the time, and when people die in bodybuilding, it just brings up more speculative stuff. It's hard to tell.
People all have speculation about that vaccine thing. I saw a bunch of comments and like, oh yeah, it's the vax or whatever. That shit's number one, is too hard to know. And just like chill with that shit. Like the guy just fucking passed. Right. You'll have your speculation on what it is, but don't go saying some fucking dumbass shit like that.
Don't be a dickhead and use this man's death as your fucking argument.
Don't.
For or against whatever the hell. Like, this is my friend. Like, shut the fuck up. But yeah, dude. So he was I called him a stubborn boomer. Again, he's about my dad's age, so I know like the class of people he is. Like, not class, but like the I guess age group. And so like that post that he made, right? He was just like,
you want to just find it?
I can find it, yeah.
Yeah,
Let me see if I can find it. Like, but that's just like who he was. He was kind of like a hard ass. Like, I was helping him with some social media stuff, and I sent him like a video about like just certain like just general like posting things, and he was like, that was a waste of my time. And I thought it was so funny because I'm like, dude, I'm helping you out, like just give me a chance.
Yeah.
But like, it's not that he like was super stubborn, because when he needed help, he reached out. Like, he wasn't like too egotistical to just like, oh, somebody else will figure it out. Like he wanted to do it himself. But again, like I'll find this post, he was fiery as fuck. Like, yes. He believed in himself so much that he was talking about like, I can't wait. I'm going to find one of these naysayers when they compete. I'm going to go to their competition, jump on stage, and blow them out of the water. And he was so serious too. I loved it because he was so passionate about it. And like I said, he was so confident in what he was able to do. And then we have the images to show that, like, dude, he got shredded and he looked amazing.
I think he was like trying to make a documentary or something too, right?
Yeah. They made it, it's called, something Game Change. Bodybuilding Game Changer, something like that. And it was cool. It's available on YouTube. It's on Smart Training 365's YouTube channel. And it's pretty cool because it gives like a cool little backstory of like where he came from and stuff. And then, kind of discovering the Brig 20. But let me see if I can find this post. I know it's kind of like all over the place right now.
It's in the text thread, I think.
But there's like a better version of it.
Okay. But...
Yeah, I what I took from him was kind of the simple idea of like just questioning strength a lot more.
Yes.
And also questioning, like the overarching question for me is what I'm doing really going to improve what I want it to improve? And I don't like overly look at that because I don't want to just have like analysis paralysis. So I will still just go and do stuff. Like I'm still doing a lot of push-ups. I still like doing some of my bench pressing. There's a lot of movements I still enjoy and still like. And so they're just there. They're a staple. I like doing the belt squat. I like pushing the sled. I like doing farmer's carries. There's certain things that they're staples and they'll be there until I can figure out a reason on why to get rid of them, but they're in for now. And so I think it's important to try to figure out, though, have some conjecture towards some of the stuff that you're doing and try to figure out what is the utility of this. And sometimes, I mean, it doesn't have to be any more complicated than sometimes you just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like if I don't bench press, I just feel like it's a disservice to my strength. Like I have strength that I can exhibit in a bench press. And that's a nice exercise for me to do. It's a good overall, good upper body movement to employ. So why not just utilize it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I keep telling myself, like, it doesn't matter, but like, I still want to know exactly what happened, like how it happened.
Right.
I know it's not going to make me feel better, like, but I still want to know, like, did he get the boosters or whatever? Like, it doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't matter that that he got this thing about like a year and a half ago. Like, I just want to know what happened. Like, it sucks because I know it's not going to help, but I would like to know.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume, and that's not always great to do. I'm going to assume he died of a heart attack. That's how most people just go. And what can happen, and I'm not saying this is the case with him, but what can happen in a lot of cases, especially with people that bodybuild, I believe he was using some HRT. What can happen in some people's cases is the blood can get thicker. And when the blood's thicker, especially if you're competing for a bodybuilding show, if you're trying to get leaner, that blood thickness can kind of, and if you have kind of like high blood pressure or you're trying to take something to get leaner for the show, sometimes those two things meet up and they lead to something bad. That's what happened to Charles Poliquin. Not even that caused his death, but it caused a heart attack years ago. I believe he took like clenbuterol or something like that, and his blood was thick. And there's a guy who knows so much about, you know, blood work and all kinds of stuff. So in some cases, that's what happens with some bodybuilders, and that's been the speculation around a lot of the other guys' deaths is just like blood, your blood pressure and the thickness of the blood.
Yeah, and I mean, he was like just a few short weeks away from, you know, I think it was just guest posing. I thought he was competing, but maybe it was just a guest pose. And hopefully this is okay, but like he has no reason to be completely honest with me, you know, because like we weren't like living together, we weren't that close, but he also wouldn't have any reason for like to lie to me either, or to keep things from me.
What are you talking about?
What he was taking. So what he told me he was taking, he was just on 200 milligrams of testosterone a week, prescribed. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this. He wasn't on, as far as I know, again, maybe something changed weeks coming, getting closer to the event. But he wasn't even on like T3 or anything, like a low dose of, I know I just said only, but like, you know, doctor prescribed T3 stuff is like 0.0 micrograms
Is T3
of shit.
something, it's not testosterone?
It speeds up your thyroid. So that way you can burn fat, or just your everything just burns a little bit faster from what I understand.
Okay.
So again, kind of going back to using him as a billboard for whatever the fuck you're arguing, you know, it's like, oh, it wasn't the vaccine, it was all these steroids. Obviously, he's on a bunch of steroids. Like, well, from what I know, talking to the man, he was not on all these steroids. You know, testosterone, sure, call it a steroid, because it is, but it wasn't like he was abusing. And again, that's just me kind of getting a little bit too emotional about it when I see people, you know, post stuff, and I'm just like, God, dude, like, he's still a person, like, quit using him.
Well, anyone who looks remotely jacked and is in their, you know, 50s or 60s, if they pass, some people just die of natural causes. But if any of them pass, what the fitness side of the internet is going to do is they're going to scream steroids or they're going to scream vax. It's what people do. And it's pretty fucking shitty, but it's just the nature of the internet. And there's nothing we really do about it.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, and then kind of going back to our conversations, you know, he was aware of blood work. Like, I mean, obviously he is aware, but like it was like in conversation, you know, because he was like, yeah, if you feel like you're not making like enough progress, then let's go ahead and get your labs done. And I'm like, oh, well, I do that quite often. But so it was, you know, it wasn't like, oh, if you're not getting the results you want, let's just hop on some shit. It was like, no, let's step one, blood work. So he was aware enough for me. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know we kind of coach people better than we coach ourselves, but I would be shocked if he wasn't getting regular blood work. Like, just because there's no, like, he's too smart for that. But, you know.
Do you have that post there?
Yeah, I do. Sorry. I didn't know if it was going to really help. But I don't know, I can't read it. So if you can,
It's a little blurry.
Okay, so Doug said, I have enough confidence in the vaccine based on my research to get it done. Those of you who think the vaccine kills people can use me as a test. If I die, you were right. If I don't die and have no ill effects, you were wrong and should admit it, at least to yourselves. Better yet, you should admit that you were misled and tell the whole world who misled you so other people can benefit by avoiding those fear mongers. Now, real quick, if he mentioned his post, if he dies, you were right. Understand, again, like, you don't know. Just because someone says that does not mean that is what happened. So again, everyone can be free to have their conjecture or their speculation on, oh, see, this is what it does. But again, you don't know. So don't hold that as fact, even though this is something somebody said.
Right. And this doesn't necessarily mean that bodybuilding is dangerous, although it can be at times, especially when taken to extremes, especially when you compete and you go really low fat and all these different things. But there's been thousands upon thousands of people that have been bodybuilding that have navigated it fairly successfully without having negative repercussions. So it's just hard, it's too hard to like pinpoint, you know, any one thing. I think the main thing, you know, whenever somebody passes, whether for me it's been a family member or a friend, I just always try to think, how do I take some of the qualities of this person and just have them live within me, and I can have that share that out with other people and have good traits of that person kind of float around forever, good ideas that they had. And from Doug, I think it's, why not have some questions about these particular movements? Why not have some questions about the way weights have typically been moved around in the gym? And that's been like a mission I've been on for quite some time now. And it's something I'm going to continue to pursue, because I still think there's so much more cool stuff to examine within strength training, conditioning, stretching, mobility. I don't think we're going to like find like the thing. I don't think we're going to be like, oh, this is it. Like we found it. But we're going to continue to find things that are better, things that will improve us faster and faster. If you kind of think about like technology, you can kind of look at it like technology, where technology used to kind of move real slow. And then all of a sudden technology is just built upon itself and just went,
Yeah.
and now things are moving super fast. And I think the same thing can happen for us with fitness, to where new ideas and concepts can keep coming in. The ones that aren't good don't stick around because they just don't work. And the ones that are helping us move forward, we'll keep those in. And we'll keep working and keep finding stuff that's better and better and better. And what if something like the Brig 20 could be something to help us get out of the obesity crisis that we're in now? Not only are people overly have excess body fat on them, but they also are under-muscled. So can we get people to train? We need more ways to train so that people can be encouraged to train, because sometimes some of the lifting we were doing previously, cleans and snatches and deadlifts and squats and stuff like that, are just a little overkill for some of the general population. But maybe grabbing a low pulley and doing a sissy squat might be something that might entice someone to at least get started, might be a gateway movement to get people in the door of the gym.
I think that information thing that you're talking about, I think it is happening right now. I was just talking to Andrew about this before we got on air, because we are not close. Number one, we're not selling a program. We're not married to an idea as far as gaining muscle or gaining flexibility or moving better. We're not married to any type of ideas. We're just trying to bring forward information that can help people get better and improve in different ways. And we've been seeing the massive benefit of all these little habits that we've been bringing into our lifestyle these past few years. We've been seeing all the benefits, but everyone who's also starting to do different things from different podcasts that they learn things from are also gaining benefit, right? Because we are not married to specific ideas. So I think what we're currently seeing, at least in ourselves, is all of this stuff adding up, all of this different pieces of information. We take what's useful, we discard what's not for ourselves, and everyone in the audience is also taking what's useful for themselves and discarding what's not, and they're gaining benefit too. So I think like all of this stuff is stacking upon itself, and we're all getting benefit, right? And especially from the stuff that Doug showed, he's allowed and helped people lift without pain into their older years. And that's pretty fucking amazing. So yeah, we're all doing it.
We're exploring. Yeah. And a couple of the comments were like, oh, I didn't even know who this guy was. I had to look into it. And this is something actually, like Mark, you had said about yourself, but like this time last week, Doug Brignole was not as popular as he is right now. Unfortunately, it took him having to die and say some shit about a very controversial thing in order to get, literally at this point, like fucking nationwide attention, because if you go on Twitter, it's like, it's very popular right now.
Really?
Yeah.
That specific post?
It's like it combines his post with like a picture of himself looking super jacked. So like that's a huge bummer, and it's a shame that like that's what it took to get him on, I'll say, the big stage.
Yeah, even having said that though, maybe it will help. Maybe somebody will start to look into it, research more.
So the comments that I'm seeing is like, yeah, I'm having to look into this guy. So in my head, I'm just like, okay, obviously would rather him be here.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is like people are going to dig deep and they're going to be like, oh shit, he was really onto something. It's like, dude, that guy knew what the fuck he was talking about. It's like, okay, well, he's gone now. So what's going to happen is people are going to, like I said, right now they're searching it. They're going to find our podcast. They're going to find, different platforms that he's been on and look deeper into his book and stuff. And then be like, dude, he was onto something. Years later, like I'll pass this down to my son. I'm like really looking forward to that. Maybe him and his friends might look back and be like, wait, who the fuck's Doug Brignole? And they'll search it. Be like, damn. So like what I'm saying is it's like, it sucks that he had to be gone in order for more people to really recognize like how smart and how like when he came here, it was like, ditch the barbell. It's so against the grain. Like, well, maybe in a couple of years we might find out like, oh wait, maybe we were all against the grain and he was the only one going with the grain. Maybe he was going with the grain more than we were. That's that sort of feeling. I know that's going to take time, but it just sucks that it's going to happen after he's dead, which is, it sucks. But I think that's just what's going to happen is it's going to take people a while to understand exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah, we lost a good one. Andrew, want to take us on out of here, buddy?
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Highly, highly recommend the book, The Physics of Resistance Training by Doug Brignole. It's on Amazon. It's a thick book, but you're gonna learn a lot, and you'll be a lot better for it. I'm gonna miss my buddy. Try not to get too emotional. Just really grateful for Carl Lenore introducing us, because without him, maybe I wouldn't know who he was. And
Carl and Ron Penna, those guys were all up on him. They loved his work.
Yeah. So really grateful. Shout out to Mo Larby again for making that connection also. I really appreciate you, brother. Sorry that we lost a really good one. But if anybody, please go check the podcast that we did with Doug Brignole. We got shorts also on the channel, like short 10-minute clips if you guys want to get to the good stuff. Dude was phenomenal. So I highly recommend that you guys follow up and learn more from Doug Brignole, etc., etc. Please follow the podcast at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where are you at?
To echo what Andrew said, check out his book. I got his book too. It's really good. A lot of really good information in it. And you'll learn some stuff. It'll be pretty great. Check out the Discord in the description at Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter, Mark.
The smelly tip for today is going to be something from Doug Brignole. So if you can bring up that clip of me doing the...
I should have to find it.
It's on Mark's page.
I know. But I still have to find it on Mark's page.
Okay.
Hold on. Oh, cool. Look at that. I found it within seconds.
You are so quick.
So fast. Let's do this again.
Young Andrew.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing?
Trying to get abs, bro.
Man, that is a stupid exercise.
Trying to get...
Let me explain to you why that's a stupid exercise. First of all, the abdominal muscles don't even connect to the legs. They go from the rib cage to the pubic bone, and what do? They flex the spine.
Crunch in.
They don't cross the hip joint. They do not connect to the legs. They do not raise the legs. They cannot raise the legs.
Waste of time.
So the question you have to ask yourself is, what is raising the legs? The hip flexors, everyone knows that. The primary hip flexor is the psoas. Where does the psoas originate? On the lumbar spine. That means when you activate the psoas, it arches your back. It pulls it forward. Your abs are trying to do the opposite. They're trying to round your back. You have two opposing forces fighting for spinal position. Neither one wins. Right? So no, leg raises are a hip flexor exercise, and you should keep your spine arched when you do them, if you do them at all, right? But when you want abs, you want to isolate spinal movement, and you want to eliminate involvement of the hip flexors so that you can quit getting that pulling on the lumbar spine.
All right, I'm going to quit. All right, well, we appreciate Doug Brignole, the time that we spent with him. We're really grateful for it.
Yeah.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.